Hi guys, welcome. So today's session, we're going to look at alignment and the lines of force. So let me give a brief description of both. Alignment is when, simplest way to describe it, you have all of your body working as one. So all the muscle groups, all the joints. A good example there is if I push the ball up into the socket, the ball of my arm into the socket of my shoulder, is what it does is that it restricts my movement. It creates a lot of tension around my neck. So that creates a weakness. Where when I draw the ball out of the socket, it gives me my full mobility of my arm and it gives me the full mobility of my muscles. And in that line of force, I can create strength and power between my arm, my shoulder, my rib cage, my spine, and my core. So a line of force is you would have one from your hand all the way into your core, opposite side as well. You'd have the two legs from the feet all the way up through, all the way to the core. So you have these 4 lines of force, and then your 5th line of force is your spine. And what you're doing is how you use your body, how you move in it. It will create strength, and then once you get into the power of it, is you shift from the physical effort to the energetic effort. So what do I mean by that? I'll take you through it today, and as I talk you through it, I'll get you to engage your line of force, and you'll feel it. You'll not just physically feel it, you energetically feel it. You'll feel a clear line of connection from your foot all the way to your core, so that when you lean into your foot or press through your foot, it'll actually tone your core and you'll feel the energetics of it. And then I'll get you to disconnect it and you'll immediately feel the disconnection of that line of force. So it's a very clear, when you get it, you'll know it, and then you'll also know when it's not there. So where do we start? Let's start with the feet. So the first thing I'm going to take you through is how to ground your feet, how to center your feet. So generally, is you want your feet to be about 4 to 6 inches apart. But more specifically, if you take your thumbs and put your thumbs at the crease at the top of your leg, and then the fingers are going to come around the side of the ball and socket joint, is that what you're feeling is the ball and socket joint in your hip. So what you want is the ball and socket joint. You're going to straight down through your knees and then all the way through your ankle to your second toe. And that's the width of your hips. It's not the outside of the hip, it's the ball and socket joint. So you want to have your second toe in line with your hip joint. And that is your balance in that. That is your alignment. So the reason why people say 4 to 6 inches is because, again, the different width of people's hips. So you can measure that out yourself. So you got that general sense. Now, you'll hear a lot of people say, like a railway line, even take your heels out a little bit more. Yes, it's good. It's a good guideline to follow. However, is our natural position. There's always a small amount of 10 to 2. And what I mean 10 to 2 is this. So you're like 10 to 2 with your feet. Is when you have your feet 4 to 6 inches apart, a little bit of 10 to 2 is natural. We'll test that a little bit more when we go through the 4 corners of your feet, but essentially you don't have to be rigid like through railway tracks. You don't have to be rigid in that, because that can actually pull you out of your alignment rather than in it. And I'll explain as we go along. Okay, so first thing I want you to do is slightly soften your knee. So a little slight bend in the knee, and you're going to feel your weight come down into your feet. So you gotta just bend the knee a little bit. No big bends. Actually, I'll set the tone with movements for now. So can everybody do this? I don't know, about half an inch. Okay. So now go to an inch. Now go to 2 inches. It's a guess, by the way. Give it your best guess. Go back down to an inch. Go back down to half an inch. Now go to 1/4 of an inch. Okay. Now go to 1/8 of an inch. Now go to 1/16 of an inch. You're nearly touching, but you're not. Okay. So micro movements is you're better off making the smallest movement that you can. And if it takes 3 movements to get to the position you want to be in, you're better off doing 3 small movements than 1 big movement. Because when you get into the refinement of your body, if you're always doing big steps, you'll have a tendency to go over and miss the place where you want to put your foot or your hand or your hip because the movements are too big. So you're better off doing small movements and incrementally finding where's that spot that you want to feel in your body. And that it is in that what you're doing is that you're opening up your spatial awareness in your body. You're opening up your awareness of the tone of your body, and you're refining your movements that they're getting smaller and smaller. So what's the smallest little thing that you need to do to just hit that spot in your body? You understand? So micro movements, and it requires you to be mindful in your movement to do micro movements. So what's the smallest little bend you can put in your knee that brings your weight into your feet a little bit more? And that's all you need to do. You don't need to bend any more than that. So there you go. Micro movements in the knee. You feel the weight come into your feet. Now, we're now looking at the feet. And what I want you to do is lift all your toes off the floor. And all your toes come off the floor. It sends you back into your heels. You feel yourself sway back into your heels. Now keep your toes off the floor and let yourself sway a little forward. Again, micro movements, so that you feel the weight press into the ball of your foot. And again, with your toes up, just observe the pads of your feet spreading out. So you feel the pads of your feet spreading out. Now, if you can, press the length of your big toe into the floor. Keep the other toes up if you can. Now, it's not just the tip of your big toe, it's the length of the big toe. And you're going to feel your inner arch lift up. Everybody's aware of the inner arch. You'll feel that lift up. Now spread the rest of your toes out, and you're going to feel the pads of your feet spread into the floor. And you have a second arch. First arch, inner one. Second arch from the big toe to the little toe. So when you feel the pads of your feet spread out, that's a second arch lifting up. Now take your heels out tiny little bit. Remember, a micro movement, a tiny little bit, so that you feel weight from the outside of your little toe to the outside of your heel. And then that's the third arch. You have 3 arches in your feet. So inside heel to the big toe or ball of the foot, big toe to the little heel or little toe, and little toe to the outside of the heel. You want to plant the 3 arches into the floor. You want to engage them so they lift up. Okay? So now check, can you feel that? So now what I want you, with your knees slightly soft, sway a little bit around the 4 corners of your feet. So you're swaying to your big toe, your little toe, the inside of your heels and the outside of your heels. See if you can feel the 4 corners of your feet as you roll around the 4 corners. Now the smallest micro movements, the smallest little sway to open up the 4 corners of your feet and feel your 3 arches lifting. So you're rooting down through the bones, you're lifting up through the muscles. So while we're centering ourselves in our alignment, rooting down through the bones, lifting up through the muscles, and just settle into feeling that connection. Okay, and just swaying around. Again, I'm not going to talk all the way up through the body so much. I will eventually, but not right away. We're just going to tease out some things, yeah? So you're swaying. I want you to feel the calf muscles a little bit more. I want you to feel your thighs, your inner thighs, your hamstrings, your glutes. Feel that they, as you sway around the 4 corners, that you feel them tone and then release. That you're toning and then releasing. And what you're doing is you're opening up the joints, all the small joints in your feet, your ankle joint, your knee joint, your ball and socket joint in your hip. Is that you're massaging them all. It's like a massage. It's very nice. And look, you can see, I'm exaggerating so you can see now. I'm rolling around, massaging, releasing out all my joints. It's like massaging the ligaments around my joints, the tendons. So you're also toning and releasing the muscles. So you're showing the muscle how to tone actively and how to actively release. So it's a nice massage for your muscles, but it's also rebalancing the tone. So if some muscles are not used to toning, they're toning now. If some muscles are not used to releasing, they're actively releasing now. So you're centering your body. It's like bringing it back to its default, its natural state, like a child. A child's natural state. And then you're coming into your center of gravity. And you're just attuning to that. So you're just finding that. So you're getting your alignment, and you're beginning to activate your alignment with the anatomy of movement to move in your alignment. At the same time, you're preparing for activating your lines of force. Okay? So you're doing this. It's really nice. So now you can ease off in the sway a little bit, because I want to talk a little bit about the joints. The ankle joint and the hip joint, they're swivel joints. They swivel. So there's a lot of swivel on them. The knee joint is a hinge joint. Okay, so now the swivel joints and the hinge joints, they work together to stabilize. If they work against each other, they can destabilize each other. So let's have a look at a little bit of that with the feet. Let's say some of these arches are low, or their arches are a little flat. I'm exaggerating it now. You'll see that the main arch is collapsing in. So you can see what happens with the swivel joint is the swivel joint starts to collapse on the inside, on the ankle. Puts an awful lot of strain on the hinge joint on the inside of the knee and the outside of the knee. So the inside is getting stretched, the outside is getting compressed. Now think about the ball and socket joints here. The ball coming up into the socket of the hip is when you compress in like this, when the arches collapse, the knees are collapsing in. These ball and socket joints, they turn inwards. So when they turn inwards, it makes the bum stick out, because the pelvis has to move, the hip has to move to make space for the pressure of the ball coming up into the socket. So you get this movement. I'm exaggerating so you can see. So it's this collapsing down experience that you'll get. Does that make sense? So we got to look at how to get that lift up through to begin to activate the center and come into the yield and the center of gravity. Does that make sense? Okay. So you'll notice I'm talking a lot about alignment and body awareness. If your arches are a little bit collapsed, you want to understand this, because if you're going to do postures, let's say you're in postures and your arches are collapsing and you're doing all these postures with collapsed arches, all you're doing is compressing your joints. So you get a great workout in your yoga, but at the same time, you're sort of wearing your joints away a little bit. So you'll pay a price for that the longer that goes on. Where if you learn how to lift your arches and you learn how to align your joints and you get that mobility in your joints, bringing the joint back to more health and vitality, you get a much clearer tone and lift up through your body. That's going to last you a lot longer. However, you need to actually understand what I'm talking about and then pay it the attention it needs. So your body awareness and how your body works, understanding that and not getting too caught up in the postures while you're focusing on this part is important. So can you do everything I'm going to describe today? Can you do it in mountain posture? Because if you can do it in standing, well then can you do it in a chair? Can you do it in a forward bend? Can you do it in a triangle? Can you do it in all these other postures? But if you can't do it in standing, in the mountain posture, you're not going to be able to do the other postures. So you've got to have baseline postures that you test all your body awareness in, and then from there you follow through with all the other postures. Okay, I haven't forgotten about the collapsed arches and how do you sort it out. I'm not going to leave you hanging, but let's look at another one. Some people do 10 to 2. They stand like this. So if a person stands like this, they're leaning to the outside of the heel. So that the foot is coming up like this. So there's an awful lot of weight going onto the heel. The ball of the foot, so the arch and the ball of the foot's not really working that well. There's a lot of pressure on the outside arch, and then the main inside arch is sort of disengaging. It's not really working. So all the weight's on the heels, and then it's to the outside of the heels. So what happens is that a person has to hyperextend the knee joint to be able to stand like this for any period of time. A hyperextended knee joint is a passive knee joint. Just standing there, leaning into the back of the knee joint. The thigh sort of hangs off the bone a little bit. The hamstrings and the glutes, the lower back, it'll get really tight to stop the body from falling over. Abdominals will spill out, pelvic floor is releasing. It's very, it disengages the body, it disengages the center and the alignment. So not such a good thing to do, okay? But it's an unconscious one a lot of people can get into that position. And again, I remember myself, I've little delicate feet. I have a size 8 foot, but it's a delicate, it's a little dainty foot. And before I got into the physical yoga, I used to walk heel to toe. I didn't roll through my arches. I walked heel to toe. So when I stood, it felt like I was just standing on stilts on the heels of my feet. And again, people stand like this. Again, I used to do this all the time. I'm just passively leaning into one joint, and I'm just leaning over onto one hip socket. And I got tired, I'd switch and I'd do the other side. Yeah, and that's a common one for people to do. Now they start doing their yoga. This gets played out. Somebody's doing a bit of 10 to 2, okay, and then they decide that okay, I'll do triangle. So now they're in triangle, and you'll always hear about the foot being the heel in line, the back ankle, and the right foot 90 degrees. That's the general guideline. But an awful lot of people do this because they're still standing in 10 to 2. They're still standing like this. They just happen to be in, they just happen to be in triangle doing 10 to 2. And if they're used to hyperextending the knee, then they're hyperextending the knee. They just happen to be in triangle, but they're doing the same behavior. So while they're trying to make the shape, you can see persons collapsing. That's not comfortable there for me. They're collapsing in their knee joint. So whatever unconscious habits that you have, bringing them into the yoga room and into your yoga practice and onto your mat is you can perpetuate, if you've got an injury or something sore, you can perpetuate it in your practice, because while you're working on doing workouts on your body, while you're doing the postures, you're still doing the bad habits that created the discomfort or the pain in the first place. Is the postures can just trigger it, make it worse. So knowing how your body works and knowing how you move in your alignment is elementally important. Now, the wonderful thing about it is, it does take a bit of time to figure out, but the wonderful thing about it is you have one body and you have how many postures? 10, 20, 100, 1,000, whatever amount of postures there are. You have one body and your alignment works a particular way. Once you figure out your body and how it works, you've figured out all the other postures. And within knowing your alignment, you'll know your strengths and your weaknesses, and you know how to work them together. So you'll know your edges and the limitations of your body and your strengths. A simple example. I'm 6 foot. I have a long spine. I have a particularly long spine. I don't have short legs, but for the length of my spine, it looks like I'm short legs. So I have a long spine and short legs, as an example. So when I do a forward bend, it's really easy for me to touch the ground because my long spine can meet the ground much, much easier. But when I do the plow, when I lie on my back and I bring my legs over my head, my long spine, it makes it challenging for me to get my feet on the ground and plow, because my short legs really struggle with having to meet that space of my long spine. So different strengths and weaknesses. Some people can have really open hips, where another person, they're built with less mobility, not tight hips. It's just their hip literally doesn't only open so far. So when you know your strengths and your weaknesses, when you know your limitations, you can be in whatever posture you want to focus on or do, but within your own alignment. And in that, you're always building your strength, which is based on your stability. Your mobility is your ability to rise, to root and rise. And then your flexibility is your ability to keep the body open and be strong. So you want to build your strength. You want to build openness in your body, and then you're going to the limit of your flexibility, and you're enjoying the challenges of a posture, but at the same time, you're actually uplifting your body. You're making your body stronger rather than wearing it down. And that's really important. And if you're committed to yoga, it's a lifelong practice. Okay, take the time to get this, because you'll have it for the rest of your life. And as your body changes through your different life cycles, is you'll be able to work with it and maintain your balance and your integrity. You can adapt with the adjustments as you go through your life cycles. So it's really important to figure out the stuff that's going on right now and what you do with it. I still haven't forgotten that we've got the collapsed arches to look at. We've got the 10 to 2s to look at. And then, other combinations. What are those? They're generally the two common ones that you get with people standing. Is the arches will generally either collapse in, or people are doing 10 to 2 leaning out in the heels. They're generally the most common discrepancies in alignment. Yeah. Okay. So now remember, I talked about 4 to 6 inches apart, the ball and socket joint, all the way down to the second toe. You're going to lift your toes up, feel the heels. Now press the big toe down for the inner arch, spread out the pads of the foot for the second arch, take your heels out ever so slightly for the third arch. And with a little soft knee, you're swaying around the 4 corners, and you're activating your center and your center of gravity. And your center is always fluid. It's not passive. So you're not rigidly in it. That's not your center. Your center is fluid. It's always fluid. And you're looking to engage the muscles spontaneously. The ability to increase the tone and decrease the tone fluidly, smoothly, in an unfiltered way, that you're spontaneously flowing in your center. Okay, so now, if your arches are collapsed in a little bit, is what you're going to need to do is focus on your thighs. So if I try and collapse my arches in a little bit, so I'm collapsing in a little bit. So what happens is my knees turn in, it makes my legs turn in. So you focus on rotating your thighs out. When you rotate your thighs out, what it does is that it aligns your hinge joint. So now you've got the power of your hinge joint. It opens up and aligns your ankles. So you can see from the ankles collapsing in, the ankles open up and they come aligned, and so too does the hip. Okay, now in that, as you rotate the thighs out, you want to make sure that you keep pressing through the length of the big toe, from the ball of the foot through the length of the big toe. So as you rotate the thighs, your inner arch is lifting up and you're getting that alignment. Okay? And then in that, keep the thighs rotating out. Feel the arches, your inner arch lift with the length of the big toe pressing down, and then just get into that sway. Let yourself now center in that, and then sway around your center of gravity, and you're showing your muscles how to engage in their center and to work as one. Okay, and you get used to being in that connection. And it takes focus to keep rotating those thighs, to plant the feet, lift up through all the arches, get that beautiful alignment coming up your leg. And then that takes discipline. You got to be willing to do it. Okay? And now once you have it in one posture, can you do it in another posture? Can you do it in another posture? And then as you keep doing the postures, is think about each posture is like a different perception. You've understood how to activate your arches, get that rise up through your arches. You can do it in standing. Can you do it in a forward bend? There's another perception. Can you do it in a triangle? There's another perception of your arches lifting. How many different postures do you need to experience your arches lifting before it becomes an unconscious habit for you? That it becomes your default. So now you're allowing yourself to be have a lift through your arches as the way you default. You're standing in your center. You understand? Now, part of what you have to allow yourself to do, you have your unconscious action. So every time you recognize your arches are collapsed, rather than beating yourself up about it, is what you do. You use it as your teacher. Be smart about it. That's your teacher. It's reminding you to align your feet, find your center, get a little sway, get the lift up through, and now you're back in active arches. Okay? And what you're doing is you're opening up the pathway from your unconscious habit of collapsing to your conscious habit of lifting until this doesn't feel right anymore, because when you're used to collapsing in your arches, you'll say that feels normal, because it is normal. When you lift up through your arches, you're going to say that feels odd. You might even say it doesn't feel right. It's unusual. It just doesn't feel right. Because it's not the norm. But you know that the lifting up through your arches is right. You just got to get used to it. So you're letting yourself go and open up the pathway between what was your unconscious habit to your new conscious habit. Now, when this habit becomes the unconscious habit, you have shifted from collapsed arches to active arches. And this becomes your new norm. But you have to allow yourself to go from one to the other. And every time you're over there, it's your teacher reminding you to go over to there. You do not need to beat yourself up about it or attack yourself about it or criticize yourself about it, because you're undoing a lifelong habit, and it's like steering a big ship. It takes time to steer the ship, and it's incrementally, degree by degree. You just got to be willing to stay engaged with it. And then the fun is, can you do it in this posture? Can you do it in that posture? And one of the benefits is less pressure, less pain on the joints, less wear and tear, and then also more bounce, more vitality. Is literally you feel a different type of vitality in your body because it's got the bounce back. Literally, it comfortably bounces in itself. The tone in the muscles is receiving more vitality. It's really nice. Where if I'm collapsing down, is that down pressure doesn't give me the bounce. I can't get the bounce. When I've got the arches lifting, I'm in the bounce of my body again. Do you understand? And it's really nice. It's really nice. So that's collapsed arches. The other one is 10 to 2. 10 to 2 is, again, the challenge here. It's about the knee. It's about, we're so used to, and more people will do this one than the collapsed arches. The 10 to 2 and the hyperextended knee is really common. It's probably the most common thing people do. And it's just, you got to use your awareness to just wake up out of that unconscious habit. So it's the same thing. you 4 corners of your feet, 4 to 6 inches apart, do what I talked about already. Now the simplest trick with this is you put a slight soft bend in your knee. Just that slight little bend in your knee. You're gonna feel your weight come down actively into your feet. What it does, it's brought you into your center of gravity. If you're not used to it, it gives you this uncomfortable sway where you're like, oh, my muscles have to work now. And you're like, oh, my muscles have to work. And they're not used to being smooth in it. So it can be a little bit jerky. Or you might find that when you're swaying, you're spending a lot of time swaying in your backwards in your heels. But when you come forward onto the balls of the feet and the length of the toes, is you feel very unstable. It's how I felt when I start doing it. is that when I soften my knees slightly, my heels out, I need to go to the front of my feet. But when I did, the moment I moved forward, I wasn't used to micro movements. So even though it was a small movement, it was big for my feet. It made me feel like I get this feeling like I was falling over. I had to slow down and find those micro movements and then get used to feeling the pressure in the pads of my feet and then lengthen it out to the length of my toes. And I've got double jointed toes. Some people are able to press the tip of the toe, and what it does is that it's double jointed toe. So I was clenching with my toes rather than pressing from the ball and the pad of the foot and pressing down through the length of my toe. So you gotta get used to that. So with a little soft knee, it just brings your weight down. That's the trick. Is with a little soft knee, it makes your body come into its center and it makes your body sway. And then in that, you got to get used to then getting comfortable swaying around the four corners of your feet. And what you're doing is you're resetting your balance. You're resetting your center. It's like you're bringing yourself back to your default, where your body's in its alignment and it's spontaneously in it. It's just this time, you're doing it with awareness, okay? So the trick is you have to be willing to do it. And then every time you find yourself leaning passively into the back of your knee, it's your teacher. It's not there to punish you. And if you do punish yourself, you're less likely to pay attention to it again. So it's your teacher. Let it teach you. So every time you notice it, soften both knees and notice how I'm back on my sway. And then get comfortable exploring the four corners of your feet. And you can do this off the mat as much as on the mat. The same with the arches. You can do it off the mat as much as on the mat. And you're bringing that into your everyday life, that your center and your fluid center is becoming more and more part of your everyday life. What you do on the mat is very important, but it's nowhere near as important as what you do off the mat. An hour on the mat, 23 hours for the rest of the day. So you do an hour on the mat and do nothing for the rest of the 23, that's a big loss. So if you take one small thing off the mat and you pepper it through your day, is your practice will just accelerate. It will move exponentially rather than linearly, and then it's a little bit, it's all slow and sluggish, one thing at a time. Take one thing off the mat, pepper it through your day, and watch how quickly your development goes. It flies along. Okay, so now we're in the legs. I'll talk a little bit about the hips. Is how to get the alignment in the hips, again, just in simple mountain posture and standing. And then what's the common things that happen to disengagement? Okay, so a lot of times, because people will do this, people will then layer this in. I'll show you this now, and then I'll explain how it gets played out in postures. So if a person is standing, leaning on the heel, hyperextending the knee, it pushes the ball and socket joint here. Because this ball is rotating in, the hip has to make space for it, so it sticks the bum out. So when the bum is sticking out, it makes the lower back really tight. The belly starts to disengage and the pelvic floor disengages. Equally too with the collapsed arches, is you get the pelvic floor collapsing, the backside sticks out, and again you get this. Okay, so you get this going on. You can also get it. You don't have to be doing 10 to 2. You don't have to have collapsed arches. If somebody isn't really aware of their body, if they're not that engaged in their body, is the body doesn't have the tone to hold itself in the right space, is that the body can just be heavy in itself. Even a light person who doesn't have much muscle tone, there can be a collapsing in them simply because the integrity of the overall tone of the body isn't given that root and rise. Does that make sense? So awareness is really important. Now, I'm also going to say to somebody who does a lot of sport, and a lot of sport can tighten the body up into positions. So a person can go around with the backside sticking out and feel very toned in it because they're used to doing that. But with regards to alignment, and really letting the energies flow. And for the long-term health of the joints and the muscles is only, I'll say this, only people of a certain age, can do that. By the time you're 30, you're going to pay for that. So you'll see people who are in sports as they go through their mid-30s, the ones who've really kept their body working right can go on and on and on. The ones who don't, is the injuries are too much. So by the time you're 30 or plus, you've got all these injuries that they can't sustain what they're doing because they're out of alignment. And just just strength alone won't be enough at a certain point because the joints are wearing away and the muscle is just getting tired. Okay, so it is knowing one's alignment is elementally important. It just is. Okay, so I know I bang on about it because it's important and it takes commitment, and it means you have to study a little bit, and it means you got to be willing to look at it and look at your strengths and weaknesses. And if you love doing your yoga practice, just doing the practice, turn up and doing the practice can be great. This can feel like it's a bit of study, and it is. But the point is, it's worthwhile, because once you've cracked it, is the enjoyment and the value of it for the rest of your life is enormous. It's enormous, so it's worthwhile. Okay, so anyway, back to the hips. So there's a lot of the bum sticking out going on, yeah? And pelvic floor relaxes, abdominal wall relaxes, and they lose their integral tone. So what would happen if I said to you, I can make your abdominal wall tone without you even trying to pull it in. Without you pulling your abdominal wall in, I can make you feel it work. I can make you feel the tone of it without you actually pulling your belly in. Or your pelvic floor is I can make you feel your pelvic floor draw up without you actually drawing it up, pulling it up yourself. Do you believe me? Okay, let me talk you through it. So again, getting the feet, little soft knee, back into the sway. Okay, and it's a gentle sway, so you don't need to be like on a ship on the sea. It's just a gentle sway. And you're just feeling the natural integrity of your muscles. You're just rotating around them, yeah? Okay, so while you're doing that, what I want you to do now is I now want you to hyperextend your knee. Okay, so hyperextend, lean back into your knee joint so it's passive, okay? And then from there, notice how your bum sticks out. So just feel that the weight's more in your heels, you're leaning into your knee joint, and your bum sticks out. And feel that your lower back gets a little bit tight and your belly sticks out a little bit. Just feel it. Yeah, so you get a sense of that, yeah? Now, slightly soften your knee. Now notice how the weight comes back into your feet, and then come back into the sway around the four corners. Now notice what's happening to your hips. So notice what's happening to your hips when you do that. Notice that the back of the pelvis, the tailbone naturally goes down slightly. It's a small movement, and your pubic bone comes slightly forward and up. So you got this tilt, and then the pelvis slowly starts to even itself out. So as the pelvis comes neutral, is you start to feel the draw up on your pelvic floor. Literally, your pelvic floor, it draws up, and you should feel a general tone in your abdominals, your lower abdominals, your upper abdominals, even your obliques, and your lower back, that you feel a general tone. Okay, so as you're swaying around your center of gravity, you're activating the root, and now the rise is coming up. So as you bring the pelvis neutral. Now, if you're not sure, stick your bum out like a duck. Okay, it's a very anatomical expression. Stick it out like a duck. Everybody understands that. Now, remember, micro movements. Slowly tuck the pelvis. Slowly bring the back tailbone down slightly until you feel your pelvic floor draw up. You're not pulling it up, it draws up itself. Now once you feel it draw up, that's it. Just hold it there. Just hold the pelvis in that position, and notice how your pelvic floor stays toned and your abdominal wall stays toned. Okay? And then just let yourself sway around that tone. So the root and the rise. Now this is relevant for all postures. It doesn't matter what posture you're in. These experiences are all relevant. So no matter what position you're in, you're activating the three arches of your feet. Doesn't matter. Stand on your head, you're still activating the three arches of your feet. You're still working the alignment of your legs. You're engaging your muscles. The way you're using your muscles now, you're engaging them in headstand. You're behaving as if you're standing on the ground, you just happen to be in headstand. So you're still keeping that root and rise. You just happen to be rooting down through your forearms and your head. But you're still rising up through your body. You're inverting it. Okay, so you're swaying. So feeling your pelvic floor and your trunk a little bit. Now I'm going to show you how to make it stronger. So to do that, I need to show you lines of force. Is how to now begin to activate the muscles in your leg to really begin to activate your power. Okay, so I'll talk you through it, but I'm going to show you something first so that you can understand it, because a lot of people get confused between hyperextending the knee and locking out your leg. Okay, so I'm going to hyperextend my knee. So look, you can see me leaning into my heel. I'm leaning into my knee joint. And again, it makes my bum stick out a little bit. Okay. So I'm not putting any conscious effort into the muscles in my legs. I'm just passively leaning into my knee joint. So it feels initially like it's easier. It's just easier because my muscles don't really need to work very much. The weight's in the joints. Okay, so I'm hyperextending the knee, and my thigh gets a little passive. Now, a locked out leg, okay, is I'm keeping the four corners of my feet grounded. I'm not leaning into my heels. I stay on the pads. I keep the three arches working. I keep my pelvis stable. I keep it neutral. I keep it level. I don't let it stick out. So the feet are still grounded, which stabilizes the ankle joint. My hip is still level, stabilizes my hip joint. Those two swivel joints that are very mobile, I'm stabilizing them through my feet and my hips. And what I'm doing is then I'm bending my knees so you can see, I'm actively, at the same time, pushing back through my knee joint and firmly pulling up through my thighs at the same time. So as I push through my knee joint and pull up through my thighs at the same time, it makes me push really firmly through the four corners of my feet. My three arches lift. With my pelvis neutral, it really draws through my pelvic floor and my core. So by me locking out my leg and really toning my thighs, I'm actually really tightening my core. At the same time, I'm really stable in the ground. Okay, you see that there? Really stable. Okay, now that's a locked out leg. Now you can notice that my leg doesn't look straight. It doesn't look straight. Now if I show you my leg straight, a little soft bend in the knee. Now my leg looks straight, but my leg isn't activated. Now here I am hyperextending. It's passive. It's not good. Okay. Now here I am straight leg, looks straight, but now here I am locking out my leg. I'm rooting and I'm rising, and I'm locking in the power of it. So even if I do a triangle, I'm pushing through the four corners of my foot. I'm pulling up, I'm rotating my thigh, I'm pulling up through my thigh, and I'm drawing this hip back. Now I'm keeping my hip stable. So when I lock out the leg, I'm knocking out and really working the power of it. Now here it is when I hyperextend. Now I'm just leaning into the joint. Now watch this. Now there's a locked out leg. Collapsing, locked out leg. And it's the power. And I get the root and the rise. It brings in my real power. Okay? So you can do that in the leg all the way to the core. You can do it in the arm all the way to the core. You can do it in your spine all the way to the core. And they're lines of force that really bring all the power of the body together. You're channeling it through your center. Okay? So now, let's test it. We're going to test the legs. Okay? So, now again, all micro movements is getting the four corners of your feet. Okay? A little soft knee for now. A little sway, just feel the four corners engaged. There's your center of gravity. Now check your pelvis, just make sure it's a little neutral, it's a little tone in your pelvic floor and your core. Not a big one, just a little one that you can feel it. And you're spontaneously rolling around the four corners and the muscles are spontaneously toning and releasing. It's very soothing, it's very grounding. Okay, so now what we're going to do is ease off a little bit on the sway. And what I want you to do is now you've got to keep your weight on the four corners of your feet. Do not lean into your heels. Don't let that happen. Okay, now keeping your pelvis neutral, so don't let the bum stick out. So you're stabilizing the ankle joint and the hip joint. Now what I want you to do, and we're going to do this incrementally, 1 to 10, scale of 1 to 10. Push it, micro movements, push a little back into the knee and draw your thighs up. 1. Now make the tone a little firmer. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Remember to keep the tailbone down, pelvis level. 7, 8, 9, 10. Now your legs are fully engaged. All the muscles in your legs are fully engaged. Now check, can you feel the four corners of your feet? Yes, is the pelvis neutral? Now can you feel your pelvic floor really draw up? Can you feel your abdominal wall draw in? That your core is getting tighter and firmer, but yet you're not pulling anything in. It's drawing itself in. Your pelvic floor is drawing itself up because you're using the lines of force in your legs and you're activating that power. Everybody got that? So you're holding it at 10. Now, if you're not used to this, you're already going, Jesus, this is a lot. This is a lot. Okay, now the challenge is 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, and then back to a nice gentle sway. Okay, so that was the line of force in the legs. Now, if you can do it in mountain posture, can you do it in chair? Can you do it in a forward bend? Can you do it in all the other standing postures? It's activating your lines of force. So that's part of the challenge, yeah? Did you notice that when you were going up from 1 to 10, were you able to incrementally go up? Or did you find yourself going 1, 2, 7, 8, 9, 10? If you did, then think about what you need to do for your body awareness in controlling the thighs and tensing those thighs as you draw them up. And that you're learning how to incrementally tone the muscle to its max, 10, tone, not tense, tone to 10, and then your ability to actively release it down. Most people, it's the actively release is more of a challenge. So you go 9 or 10, 9, 8, 2, 1. Okay. Now, if you did that, then that's the challenge. Can you incrementally bring it all the way up and then incrementally bring it all the way down? You understand? So that you're learning how to consciously control the muscles and allow them then to spontaneously tone and release. And that you're beginning to learn how to control all the muscles in your body, and you're controlling the natural integrity of your body, but it's with awareness. And you incrementally go through all of your body like that. Now let's talk about what it's not. If the muscles are out of alignment or they're pushed too hard and they can't control it, what they do is they brace. Is the muscles bunch up, they brace. That's your body's communication to tell you that it's not comfortable, it's not in control. You don't need to think about that very much once you feel the body brace. You need to pull back, whatever it is. You can think about what it was after you come out of it. So if you feel your muscles bracing or fighting against you, if you continue on in that, all you're doing is attacking your body, and your body is treating it as an attack, and it's bracing to protect itself. So you're never really going to find your alignment and bring awareness to it that way. That's only attacking and punishing your body. You're submitting your body at that point. That's not the way it works. You want to break your body's will. You don't want to do that either. You want to bring your body into its seat of power, its real power. And you want your body willingly moving into that intensity and power, not you having to beat it up until it just gives up. So it's a very different thing. So the moment your body braces is you need to really listen to that and go, hang on, something's out of kilter here. I'll pull back, and then I need to figure out what it is I need to do. So that when you begin to activate your lines of force, and now you incrementally show your body how to tone up and then to tone down, you're building up a relationship, a conscious relationship with your physical body, where you're communicating real control to it, and it will respond to you. Because when you willingly go into that gently, micro movements, so you're activating your legs, you know, you're locking out the leg, and you can feel the effort. 3 and 4 is fine. 5 and 6 is okay, but 7 is like, oh God, I really have to focus here. When you go to 8, you go, I better hold it at 8. I better hold it. Well, I know there's more strength in me, but this is what I can control right now. You're showing your body your intention. And your intention is to come into your body, to understand your body, to know your body, to be your body, and be in your body. And it will instinctually respond to you. So it will work with you rather than against you. If you throw yourself into things and you're disengaged from your alignment and you're ungrounded, your body's going to think it's falling over. It's going to try to protect itself. If you start pummeling your body in postures, your body's going to think that it's been attacked. And it's going to try and protect itself. It'll close in and brace. So you need to nurture your body and build up a form of communication that your body understands. And your body understands touch. It's a visceral thing. It's a physical. Your body's physical. It understands physical touch. It innately understands the connection with the ground. When you consciously go there, your body's going to, hey, there's a place to rest here. Hey, here's a place of stability. I can actually get strong from here. If I resist this natural tone comes up through it. Your body understands that. Innately, it understands it. When you consciously start to show your body this pathway, what you're doing is you're just awakening something you already intrinsically understand at a physical level. Your body knows it to be true. And as you take your body through it, there'll be a rightness to it. And your body's instinctual gut knowing will come through. So when you're in your line of force and you feel the power of it and it comes all the way to your core, you feel your core working and you're not even pulling it in. Now your body's working with you and you're moving through your lines of force. Now imagine activating them in the arms, bringing it all the way through to your spine and having that beautiful release. All your muscles are in their strength. What does that mean? From a yogic point of view is look at your body weight, all of your body, the weight of your body. What you want to do is you want to stack your body weight. You want to stack your body weight in a, I always got this, vertical, horizontal. I always get these mixed up. You want to stack your body weight vertically rather than horizontally. And what I mean by that is that when you're doing this here, you're stacking your weight horizontally. Puts an awful lot of pressure on joints and different muscles. Also weakens them. Where when you come into your center and you come into your center of gravity and your root and your rise, what you're doing is you're stacking your weight through your center, and as you rise, you're holding your weight. Now, all of your body is involved in holding the weight of your body. And what happens is that the weight of your body evens out. It gets distributed evenly. So if you think about it, you can be in a posture where all of your body is working and all of your body is working to hold its own weight. So I know there are some schools of thought where when you're working on one part of the body, you relax the other part of the body. Personally, I don't agree with that, because if I'm in a position where part of my body is trying to be passive while the other part is working, is the root and rise is gone. That yield has been disengaged, is the line of force is not there, is all I'm doing is collapsing in that, where part of my body is trying to hold all of my body. Like if I do a forward bend, so if I'm sitting in a forward bend, and I'm just trying to relax and just flop over and not really do anything is that's not opening anything. That's not working anything. That's taking me deeper into a shape, but it's actually not bringing me into my active alignment. So I would need to engage my sit bones, my heels, and all the muscles that touch the floor need to resist in. So I get that rise up through the trunk of my body, so that as I lift out of my ball and socket joint, I'm extending over with my spine nice and long, and it's active. So I'm actively moving into a sitting forward bend, and all of my body's involved in that. So whether my hands are on the floor or not, my hands are fully open. Whether my foot's on the floor or not, the arches of my foot are fully engaged. That I'm keeping a general tone in my body that allows the weight of my body to transfer through it all. So I'm keeping all of my lines of force open. Initially, it can feel like, well, Roy, that feels like there's going to be a lot more effort in my yoga practice. Yes, it is, for a little while, so that you start using your muscles to a level of 7. If you're not used to it, 7 can be really, really tough, you know. And what I mean by 7 is it takes 10 to hold all the weight of your body in alignment. Is if you're holding your body in alignment and you're being challenged by it because you can only hold 7, 8, 9, 10, at what point can you activate? I'm going to activate the lines of force in my arm. At what point can I activate the lines of force in my arm? I'm activating the lines of force in my legs and my spine. Now, I'm not overly intensifying anything. All I'm doing is holding the lines of force and I'm breathing. So at what point can I just stand here and hold this for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and I'm just in the lines of force and I'm breathing. And that the longer I hold it, the less effort I'm putting in and the more energy I'm getting in return. And I'm just channeling energy. And my muscles reach 10, but they don't go to 11. They don't go to 12. They don't go to 15. I'm not burning out my muscles. I'm relaxing into the natural integrity of my body. I'm relaxing into my strength. So as my muscles reach 10, I'm softening into them. I'm not fighting them. I'm not outside trying to get away from them. I'm resting into them. I'm breathing into them. I'm relaxing into them. So the more I relax into my strength, I shift from physical effort to energetic effort. And I really tap into the power. So if I'm channeling more energy through my body than my physical body needs to hold itself, is then I'm getting more energy in return. So I just relax into my tone. I'm just relaxing into the natural integrity of my body. Now, I'm not going to stand here for 20 minutes and chat like this, but you get the idea. So it's important that when you're working on your alignment and your body awareness, is that you get used to holding your lines of force open and building your strength so that you know what it is. So it can be a phase in your practice where you're figuring all this out. It doesn't have to be the only thing you can do. You can do restorative classes, you can release out knots, you can do flow classes, you can do core classes. There's lots of different types of classes that you can work on different things, but this is elementally important for all of them. Think about what your flow would be like if you're flowing through your lines of force and all of your power is coming from your core, you're breathing it, and all your joints are mobile and all your muscles are free to move. So you're not just in the flow state, you're in the power of the flow state. And you're moving through your natural space and you're just in it. It's gorgeous. It's a different type of thing. So you're moving through the flow state and because of your alignment, you're bringing power into it. If you did the restorative class, you get into beautiful micro movements as you get into the energetics of it. Now you can move more energy through your flow class and you can do it with power. So now you're flowing in the power of the flow. You get these beautiful waves of energy. But you get the idea, okay? So did you, when you activated your lines of force in your leg, when you locked out the leg with the feet stable and the pelvis neutral, did you feel your core get tighter? Did you feel your pelvic floor get tighter? They toned more without you pulling them in. Okay, that's what's commonly known as a convincer. If you had that experience, I hope you're convinced of what I'm saying is the truth because you felt it. That you don't need to believe what I'm saying here. Have your experience And as you have your experience, I'm showing you how to measure your own experience so that you know the truth of it. You can feel the power of it. Do you understand? And that you start to measure your own progression, and you can start to measure how you're getting on with it. Okay? So let's go a little bit further. But let me just check, because I don't know what time it is. I know I'm talking a lot, so I need to check the time. It is 1 minute past 7. Okay, so I'm going to check and see if there's any questions. I decided today that I'll talk for an hour, and then what I'll do is I'll check the questions afterwards at the end of the session. So let's just see who's here. Let me see if there's any questions. How do I tap into the questions now? I did see there's a question. The questions are down the end. Oh, no, they're not. Sorry, guys. Let me just see. Maybe it's there. No. Let me see. I can't find the questions. Okay. Let me have a look on this. Okay, what's the difference between maximum tone and bracing in the pose? The answer: to increase the tone in the muscles of the legs, are you squeezing, contracting the muscles, or holding the line of force for longer? Okay. Okay, so Mahela asked the difference between tone and tensing. I think I've answered that already. And then Karen is asking about, let me just check again. Karen, increase the tone muscle. Squeezing or contracting. Okay. So if I get you to do this one, is if you step your feet out about 3.5 feet or so. Thereabouts, about 3.5 feet or so, yeah? As if you're going to do triangle. And then what I want you to do is turn your toes in 15 degrees a little bit. Okay, and as you turn your toes in a little bit, make sure you have the 4 corners of your feet on the ground. So one of the things I used to do is I'd press down through the length of the big toe, and I'd spread out the ball of the foot. And that would help me ground the 4 corners of my feet. Okay? So you want the 4 corners of your feet on the ground, and if you just put your hands on your hips, elbows back, shoulders open. Now what I want you to do is I want you to just do a little shimmy with your hips. Do a little shimmy with the hips. And what it's doing is making you press the 4 corners of your feet on the ground. So make sure you feel the 4 corners pressing down. Now, when you do that, it's going to activate the tone in your leg. It's going to activate the thighs. Feel your thighs activate. Now, make sure to bring your pelvis level. It's most likely to do it itself, but make sure your pelvis is neutral. Okay? Now, in that is your leg comes into its alignment itself. Okay? Now, ease off on the shimmy. The alignment is you're pressing through the 4 corners of your feet. Okay? Now, you want to rotate your ankle and your hip joint to open them. So you rotate your thigh, and as you rotate your thigh, see how it opens the ankle, and it also opens the ball and socket joint. If you turn your knees in, is look how it collapses the ankle, and again, it makes the ball and socket joint, the hip socket tight, backside sticks out. Now if you collapse the arches, you find them collapsing in. So the 4 corners of the feet are on the ground. Now, as you rotate your thigh and you lift up through them, it opens up and stabilizes your ankle and your hip, and then you get to lock out your leg, push back through your knee joint. As you pull up through your thighs, is you're shortening them. Is you want to draw them up, so you're pushing down and you're drawing up through your thighs. So you make them nice and tight. Squeeze them towards the thigh bone, and they naturally draw up. Okay? A nice firm tone. And with the pelvis neutral, again, you should feel your pelvic floor and your core work. Now, have that there, hands on the hips. Okay, now while you're doing that, do a little bit of this again. Do a little bit of shimmy again. Now, notice as you shimmy, is the same tone happens. You actually get the same tone in your legs. It naturally tenses the thighs. It naturally rotates them out. So it opens up your ankle joint and your hip socket as well. Okay, so by just doing this is you'll spontaneously root and rise. You naturally bring yourself into your alignment. Okay, so rather than having to constantly think about, is my foot doing this, my hip doing that, if you step out the feet and just do a little sway, and if you know your alignment, you'll feel yourself come into it. It's just a very simple way to check in with it. Okay, now as you tone your legs, is you're incrementally increasing the tone. Is if you lose control, is you're going to brace. So when the muscles brace, is you know you got to ease off a little bit. So there's a world of difference between, I need to step back out, yeah? There's a world of difference between tone and tension. And back into your sway, you're coming into the tone and you're swaying around it. And then you're incrementally getting used to activating the tone and release. So when you're activating the tone, you want to have it so that you're rooting down and lifting up. You want to open up all the joints. As you open up all the joints, you're toning the muscles to hold the joints open in their mobility. Do you understand? And you're shortening the muscle when you tone it, and then you're actively lengthening the muscle when you're actively releasing it. Okay? So this is going to the Karen. So when I do a forward bend, Karen, I'm shortening my thigh muscle. I'm tightening it and I'm shortening it, but I'm actively lengthening my hamstring. I'm actively lengthening my calf. Do you understand? Where if I'm in camel, is I'm shortening my calf and my hamstring, but I'm lengthening my thigh. But I'm actively doing both. Okay, I'm actively doing both. Okay, so any more questions? Let me see. Any more questions? Okay. No more questions. Okay. Now I know I'm breaking my own cardinal rule of coming out of the shot, but I'm not. I'm still getting used to the standing and stuff like that. Okay, so. Where else can I go in this conversation now? Because I pretty much said I've said what I wanted to say. I'm mindful not to start going into a bunch of other postures yet, and the reason being is, can you do all this in mountain posture? Can you do all this in mountain posture? You know what I'll do? I'll talk up through the rest of the body. And we'll see where it goes. Yeah. So you're in the four corners of your feet. You're swaying. Okay. So now make sure your pelvis is neutral, so you feel your pelvic floor and your trunk of your body a little bit. And we're not activating the lines of force. We're not locking out the legs. We're just coming into the integral tone of your center of gravity, and you're coming into the root and rise. Okay. So now what I want you to do is breathe into your navel. Then breathe into your rib cage and breathe into your upper chest. Your navel, your rib cage, and your upper chest. So breathe at a pace that allows you to feel all three move on the inhale and the exhale. And don't worry about the depth of your breath. The depth is fine. As long as you feel a bit of movement on all three, that's fine. Because you're working the full lung. You don't always have to work the full capacity of the lung. So you can be the different depths of capacity, but you're moving the full lung on all breaths. So some will be shallow, some will be deep, some will be in between. And as you do that, I want you to notice that as you breathe into your navel and contract into your navel, is that it gives you a greater sense of tone and that you feel all of the trunk engaging. As you breathe into your intercostal muscles in your rib cage, when your rib cage expands, it naturally floats up. Now, we got to get our alignment right here. So while your pelvis is level, your rib cage needs to be level too. Okay, so you got to be careful. So we're going to test this so you can stay in it. But what I'm going to get you to do is I want you to prop your chest. So you're basically, your rib cage is, you're tilting your rib cage where the front breastbone goes up. So you're propping the chest. I want everybody to feel that. So you're going to feel again in the back of the rib cage gets a little tight. Your lower back might get a little tight. Your obliques will disengage a little bit, and then your upper abdominals. You'll feel that space open and won't feel so connected. So you're propping. So while you're propping, maybe exaggerate a little bit more. Just not a huge amount, but just a little bit more, yeah? Now, while you're propping, I want you to try and breathe into the sides of your rib cage. Try and breathe into the sides of your rib cage. It's not so easy, if possible, to breathe deep into the sides of your rib cage when your chest is propped. So it really cuts off the middle lung and the upper lung when you're propping the chest. It makes it much more difficult. Now, bring your breastbone slightly down. So bring your breastbone slightly down so your rib cage comes neutral. Okay? Now, when you've got that connection, you'll feel a little tone in your upper abdominals. So while your pelvis is neutral, there's your lower abdominals coming in. When your breastbone and your rib cage is neutral, there's your upper abdominals coming in. So now try to breathe through the sides of your rib cage when your rib cage is neutral. Notice how free the space is, that your rib cage can expand a little bit more freely. Maybe even a lot more freely, to be honest. Now in that expansion, notice how your rib cage floats up a little bit. Now careful, it's not floating back into the prop. So you got to get used to when you breathe into your rib cage, it expands, it floats up, and all of your rib cage floats up together. So breathe into the upper chest. All of the rib cage floats up together, and what happens is you get a greater sense of tone in your abdominals, a greater sense of tone in your obliques at the side and your lower back. So it lengthens out the space between your vertebrae and it intones the trunk of your body. Okay? And it's part of the root and the rise. It's part of activating the lines of force. As we get more into it, is how do you get your line of force into that? How do you really bring power into it? But for now, you're just getting used to is the root and rise and getting into the tone and settling into it. So if you've weak abdominals, this is a lovely thing to do just to bring awareness to your trunk and then bring a bit of tone and energy to it. So rather than trying to bring power to it straight away and it'll just feel like punishment and you might not be able to do it, is bring awareness first. So if you feel like your core is a little weak or your abdominals are a little bit weak, feel the tone, breathe into it and just build awareness. Let your awareness reside in the trunk of your body and get used to being there. So you're moving around in your center of gravity and you really begin to feel the trunk of your body and you can live in it. As you go about your day, you can feel the trunk of your body engaging as you move. I'm swaying here like I'm walking down the street, but you get the idea, yeah? Okay, so now the rib cage is floating up, the trunk is working more, the spine's getting elongated. Now when you breathe to your upper chest, your lungs are small here, they're very small, up towards the collarbones. You got to take your time, you got to slow down and give a little time for your lungs to expand. Now that's your collarbone lifts up ever so slightly. It sends the shoulder away from the ear and it sends the shoulder blade back down towards the back of the rib cage. And it opens up this space across the shoulders. And then from the base of the neck to the base of the skull, you get that beautiful lengthening. So as you breathe into your upper chest, collarbones rise slightly, shoulders naturally come away from the ears, and you get the lovely openness across the neck and shoulders, and then from the base of the neck to the base of the skull lengthens. And then you're coming up to the top of the skull. So you'll find your skull comes level on the top of the spine. But generally people talk about that it'll slightly dip the chin to tone the throat. So it's not like this. It's the same as the breastbone. Prop your breastbone and then slowly bring it down till you feel your upper abdominals. Now prop your chin, so it tightens the back of the neck, and then rather than bring the chin down, see the base of the neck? Send the base of the neck up, and that will bring your chin down, and then you feel your throat tone a little bit, and that's it. So it's a mindful movement where you're swaying in your root and your rise, okay? And then you're breathing it. Now your arms. Feel that lovely space come across the top of your shoulder. Now what I want you to do is straighten your fingers and put them a little bit apart. And you can turn them out just a little bit, not too much, just a little bit. So your fingers are straight and a little bit apart, so you feel that tone, like the tone in your feet. And what I want you to do is mimic the tone in your feet. So put your fingers straight a little bit apart and then mirror the tone in your feet. And whatever you think it is, that's what it is. Now that's going to send the tone up your forearm. It's going to come into the bicep, and the tricep is going to come into your shoulder. Now, while you feel your shoulder come away from the ear, you get this beautiful tone coming up your arm. I want you to extend from your armpit. So think about, as you lengthen the joints, you're toning the muscles. So you got that extension from the armpit. You'll feel the tone come into the armpit a little bit. And then you're swaying and you're engaging all of your body. And you're just breathing in it. Okay? So I'll tease out the arms a little bit more with you now, yeah? I love doing this. Love doing this in teacher training. On teacher training, sometimes I get people to hold this for 20 minutes, you know? And it's not to punish people, but it's actually to show them how strong they really are. Because when you get your alignment right, it's really powerful. So if you bring your arms up like this, okay? And again, about shoulder level. And first thing I want you to do is point your finger like a gun, okay? Like a gun. And then the reason being is, you know, do you ever see the movies where they go to point, before they shoot, they point the gun like this, okay? So what I want you to do, see the index finger? I want you to point the index finger like you're pointing the gun, okay? Now I know that gun is not a great metaphor here, but it really shows you how to do it. So now point your index finger like you're trying to point the gun on both arms. Now notice how it really activates the arms. Now once you have that, extend out all the fingers and continue to point that index finger like you're trying to point a gun, and feel that lovely tone come through your wrist. You're stabilizing your wrist. There's the hinge joint of the elbow. You're stabilizing the hinge joint. And then you're stabilizing the ball and socket joint. You're extending. Shoulder blades are sitting back, but the shoulders are open and the neck is long. Okay, now keep doing it. Don't drop your arms. Okay, now we'll do a couple of things. So there's 3 stages to it. And we'll do this a little bit. What I want you to do is, first thing is squeeze your shoulders up to your ears and then take your shoulders away from your ears. Squeeze your shoulders up to your ears, then take your shoulders away from your ears. So that's the first one. You're opening up across here, okay? You want your shoulder blades to sit on the rib cage. So while you're there is prop your chest, okay? So when I prop my chest, look, I'm like this. I'm trying to roll my shoulder blade back onto my rib cage, but when my chest is propped, my breastbone's going this way, the back of my rib cage is going this way. So when I roll that shoulder blade back and down, there's nothing to meet it. There's nothing to meet it. Does that make sense? I can't meet it. So when I bring my breastbone down slightly, my rib cage comes level, the back of my rib cage, as I expand, it's coming out to meet my shoulder blade. So now my shoulder blade and the back of my rib cage are meeting each other. And as I extend from the armpit, I'm really locking in my line of force to my core. So the stages, shoulders to the ears and away from the ears. So that's one. Next one, shoulders to the ears, away from the ears. Now lengthen the base of the neck to the base of the skull. So shoulders to ears, away, and lengthen the back of the neck. Bunch up, open up across, and lengthen. Bunch up, open up across, and lengthen. Now the third one is we're going to extend from the armpit. So bunch up, away from the ears, lengthen the back of the neck. Now extend from the armpit, like you're trying to point a gun, but extend from the armpit, breastbone level, and feel how all of your upper body locks in. All of your arms lock into your shoulders, lock into your rib cage, lock into your spine, lock into your core. So if you did this with your arms fully extended, keeping the shoulders open and the breastbone down, can you feel your stomach tighten? If you can, you're activating your line of force. If you did this, can you feel your stomach tighten? If you turn your palms down, you did this, can you feel your obliques tighten? that they tone. If you did this, again, it's the obliques coming into the abdominals, into the lower back, so that when you've got your line of force, let's try this and keep it here, clench your fist and see if you can feel your stomach tighten. Open your hand, your stomach's not so tight. Clench and feel the abdominals tighten a little bit, so that you're controlling your core through your hand. So your line of force is coming all the way through your body, right to your core. So it's powerful stuff. If your hands are on the ground, they resist in, and it activates that same line of force. Now, when you have that, you either have it or you don't. So here's your line of force. Now what I want you to do is soften the elbows, just a little bit. Let your shoulder bones a little bit. Let them soften a little bit. Now clench your fists and see if you can feel your core. Nothing. The tone of my wrist the tone of my hand doesn't go past my wrist. It's just out on its own. The hand is out on its own, okay? Now activate the line of force. And as you activate the line of force, when you close your fist, can you feel your core tighten? You feel the whole arm tighten, the shoulder tighten, the rib cage, right down through the spine to the trunk and the core. So you're activating your line of force. It's super. Now what I want you to do, okay, open up the hands, but keep your line of force. Now lock out your legs. So keep them on the four corners of your feet, keeping the pelvis neutral. So breastbone and groin, keep them level with each other. Don't let them go one down and one up. Keep them like this. Slowly push through your knee joint, pull up through your thighs, and then feel your pelvic floor and your core get tight through from the soles of your feet. Now activate the hands through to the core. And then you're lifting right up through the top of the skull and right down through your tailbone. Activate the spine. Don't worry if you don't get it all. It's just, don't worry about the spine part. It's a bit more, might take a little bit more practice for you to feel that. So now, how strong does your core feel? And then hold it. Hold it. Now, another conversation we're going to have on another day is going through all the layers of resistance. So there's the physical resistance, and look, if it gets too tiring, is rather than disengage your line of force, if you lower your arms slightly, it doesn't feel as difficult, but yet you still got your line of force. You can go up here, you still got your line of force. Is you can move, make adjustments, as long as you hold your line of force. So now you're holding the line, if you understand, the physical line. And then you'll go through these layers of mental resistance. You know, all the reasons why you should come out of it. I'm tired, I can't do it, it's hurting me, I'm this and this. And you'll go through all your layers of reasons why you should come out of your power. Does that make sense? And it's good to recognize all those different layers, because they're all our strategies for trying to escape out of it. You know, and it's good to recognize them. And then every time you give yourself a reason to come out of it, rather than coming out of it, test that reason. Are you really that tired? What if you lowered your arms? Could you hold your line of force? Yeah, I'm tired, don't feel so tired. I feel like it's too much of a strain. Well, what if you lowered your arms again? You're still in line of force. Yes, I'm still in line of force. What if you tell yourself you can't do it? Well, what if you just kept doing it? Yes, I can do it. And you just start going through all your layers of resistance and testing to see how true it is. Does that make sense? Now, you may come along and go, I've got an injury in my shoulder, and that injury in my shoulder is starting to tweak a little bit. I'm starting to feel it gets a little bit tender. Okay, well then adjust a little bit. Is it less tender? Yes. Okay, I'm still holding it. So now you're holding a line of force, keeping your joints open and your muscles toned. Is that injury getting a little bit more tender? Yes, ease off a little bit more. Ease off a little bit more. Does that make sense? So that you can start to feel out the tension spots in your body or the injuries in your body, and you can start to bring it to a place of power, but incrementally. You're doing it in a gentle way. At some point, if you do have an injury and you need to say, no, I need to rest, well, then you need to know that you rest. And if you need to rest, then let yourself rest. But know that, yes, I need to rest, and it's true and genuine, rather than going through all those layers of resistance. And every time you give yourself a reason to come out of it, it's without even questioning it, is you go, yes, that's okay. You use that for your justification. Does that make sense? So while you're going through the physical line of force, we'll get more into the breath as we go along. we'll also get more into the mind. Is think about your breath like an extended breath. Is it gets more energy in. So I'll say it this way: if you two people breathe the same quantity of breath, one person is in their true alignment, and the other person is disconnected and collapsing. They're breathing the same amount of breath. Is the quality of the breath different? And the simple answer is yes, it is, because the person who's in their alignment is more efficient with their energy. Is they can actually draw in more energy in the breath. So there's a world of difference between the quantity of breath and then the energy with which a person is engaged with. Does that make sense? Another way to describe it, if somebody's all angry and they're breathing a particular way, is well, they're drawing in to feed that anger. If somebody is very calm and relaxed, they're much more spacious in themselves. The breath they breathe in is bringing in the spaciousness, and that's the ether. There's different energies you can bring in. So you can have one type of breath, and you can have another type of breath, and two of them are very different energies. So now if you tap into a lovely power in your body, and you tap into the same power in your breath, when you begin to extend out your breath, like you're extending out your spine, extending out the tone, is what you're doing is you're drawing in more of that beautiful energy, so that you're expanding your ability to hold energy and hold a stronger form of energy or a higher form of energy. Equally, at a mental level, you're doing the same thing. Your ability to focus on something that's good for you, like your strength in your body, and as you focus on it, is you're clearing that focus all the way through. You're clearing it out. And one of the things we're clearing out is all the reasons we give ourselves to step out of this that aren't necessarily true. Does that make sense? Is everybody can do this. Yes, you can get tired, but you can adjust. No, you're not going to hurt yourself. There's a world of difference between strong sensations and real pain. Is if you're not used to holding a tone in your muscles and you start to hold it more, it can feel uncomfortable. It can feel tiring. It can feel like, oh, this is stressful, but it's a positive stress. It's a healthy stress. You're not causing yourself any harm. And if you incrementally tease it out and go into it gradually, is you'll build that strength where you find your body begins to work with you rather than against you. When you have your body working with you in this, the power in your body blooms. It just blooms because you're not beating yourself up anymore and you're not punishing yourself. You're coming into this beautiful space where the power of it becomes your natural nature. It just becomes natural. The natural integrity of your muscles, that's your natural state, and you're softening into it. But we got to clear out the blocks, the physical, the energetic, and then the mental. So part of today's session is when you wanted to come out of it and you gave yourself a reason to come out of it, is not allowing that reason to justify you coming out of it when you could have just adjusted your position a little bit more but stayed in your line of force. That's what I'm basically trying to say. Okay, so I'm going to end today's session. Let me just check for one more questions. There's Kelly. Should the lock activate automatically when you do this, or is this something that you consciously must do? Kelly, brilliant question. Kelly's question is, now I'm going to assume it for the locked out leg or the locked out arm, and then it's also for the locks in the body, the perineum, the abdominal, the throat. I'm not going to explain what that is now. If you know it, you know it. Later on, we'll have another conversation. But does the locked out leg or the locked out arm or the core, does it spontaneously activate, or do you have to consciously keep controlling it all the time? No, you don't have to consciously keep controlling it all the time. When it becomes your unconscious response, when it becomes your natural response, it will naturally kick in. But before that, you have to do it consciously. So there's 4 stages to learning. And the last 2 is conscious competence. Is you have to practice it with awareness. And when you think about it, you can do it. Unconscious competence is when you can do it without thinking. So now you're planting your feet, you're staying in your center of gravity. You're getting comfortable with toning your muscles and releasing them, actively toning, actively releasing them. You're getting really familiar with all that. You're enjoying it and you're building your strength. And then you start to tease out your lines of force, where your line of force, you're really beginning to feel the power of it. Oh, that feels like a bit tough for a little bit, but then you incrementally bring it in, and as you do, you're breathing into it, you're softening into it, and you're starting to feel the power of it, and you're relaxing into it. The more relaxed you become with your lines of force, the more they will spontaneously kick in. Let me give you a simple example. Just back to triangle again, yeah? Let's say I'm here. So the general tone in my body, 4 or 5 as an example, yeah? So I understand my alignment. So as I move in, is my muscles on my legs are now at 5. They're now at 6. They're now at 7. And they're incrementally engaging more and more as they need to for me to hold my line of force and my root and rise, my yield. So that I'm spontaneously toning the muscles as I go deeper in. I don't have to constantly keep thinking about it all the time. Do you understand, Kelly? Because I can feel it. After a while, I'm breathing it. So I remember the way we used to run teacher training before, we'd be taking people through, you got to rotate this, and you got to draw up through this, and you got to hold this here, and you got to keep the pelvis neutral. Now, we still do all that. We still talk people through their alignment, but what accelerated the whole thing is when we start bringing in the center of gravity and the lines, the root and rise and the lines of force, is what happened was that we talked everybody through it, and then we said, okay, a little shimmy is the same thing happening. Is it naturally bringing you into your alignment? Yes. Can you feel the tone of it? Yes. Okay, now breathe into that, and what we want you to do is don't think about what your body's doing anymore. Just feel the root and the rise and move through the root and the rise and let your muscles spontaneously engage. Let your muscles spontaneously engage and watch how your body's doing it itself. Do you understand that, Kelly? Everybody else understand? So that after a while is you're breathing your alignment and you're not constantly having to think about what every muscle is doing because it's spontaneously happening itself. If it disengages, immediately you recognize it and you got to do some mental adjustment. Bit of awareness, you adjust yourself, kicks back in, and then you're just enjoying the flow of the tone. So again, that becomes part of the practice. And some postures that's easier to do than others, but again, that's your challenge. That's you got to figure it out. Okay, as you go in your own body, with the different postures. I've got it in this one, can I do it in that one? Okay, so great question. It makes something that can be very complicated. It simplifies it because you're really bringing in the direct experience of it. So you know your alignment, but you want to then flow in and not have to constantly be thinking about it. You just want to be in the awareness of it, and that you're in the intuitive awareness of it. That you're not constantly thinking, because it takes the fun out of the practice. So you got to study it to figure it out, and then as you figure it out, is you let yourself then move freely in that with awareness. And that's the journey. That's the journey. Okay. So again, I'm going to check one last time for questions, and then we'll call it a day. If there's no questions. Kelly's there. You're very welcome, Kelly. You're very welcome. Okay, everybody. Thank you very much. So you'll see it's a mix between chats on all things yoga, the philosophy, the subtle anatomy, the practice itself. So there's discussions. Those discussions are really important, because when do we get the time to talk about it? If we're always in the practice. And there's a lot of fundamental practices that lie behind the physical posture, that it's important that we get that discussion going. Then you'll notice that I do practices like this. I'll incrementally keep building. For now, I'm just staying in body awareness and working on the alignment. I'll begin to layer that more through more postures. And again, Navel is going through that in all the classes. I look to bring in activating the core more, getting the flow state, getting mindfulness in. Now, I am thinking of turning the Friday night class into a restorative practice, which is much more getting into the subtle energies and then bringing in a restorative session. Because Navel is teaching on Tuesday and Thursday, and then I'm talking on Monday and Wednesday. And it might be nice, I got asked about it today and I thought it's a good idea. It might be nice to do Friday as a restorative class. And we can get in some of the other energy practice while we're doing that as well. So if you like that idea, send me a little message, tell me what you think about it, and maybe we'll do that for Fridays. Outside of that, thank you for turning up today. Hope you enjoyed the session, and I'll see you again. Thank you.